Our guest today is someone who understands technology not from a slide deck, but from the inside out. Kendall Holbrook is the CEO of GovTech Technology, where she spent nearly 27 years helping government agencies solve real mission problems with technology that actually works. She became CEO in 2018 after leading business development for 8 years, and long before that, she was deep in the trenches, working hands-on with the government stakeholders to modernize systems that don't get to fail. Kendall holds a degree in computer science from the University of Virginia and an MBA from the University of Maryland, which means she speaks both fluent code and fluent boardroom. She's a recognized leader across the GovCon ecosystem, Executive of the Year, Diversity in Business honoree, a vice chair at ACT IAC, a chamber board member, and a long-time advocate for mentoring women in tech and leadership. And today, she's here to talk about what people got wrong about AI, buy versus build decisions, and why modernizing government systems is never as simple as executives think it is. Kendall, welcome to Tipsy Technologists.
Thank you.
So what are we drinking today? Are we drinking anything fun?
A old fashioned, I think.
Oh,
yes.
okay. We're doing an old fashioned. I wonder.
Yeah.
I bet there's a theme to that.
Exactly.
So, yeah. All right. So, all right. I have a couple fun icebreakers for you.
All right.
If your company was a cocktail, what's in it?
Ooh, if our company was a cocktail. So I think we'd go with something that's fairly grounded and easy to drink, right? Because we're like a family. We all get along. So when we've done signature cocktails at events, we normally go with something like a Kir Royale. We call it a Dev Royale.
Oh, I love that.
Yep. So a little bit of champagne, a little bit of something, a splash of red, and normally a piece of fruit, just for fun. So it's kind of classic, kind of easy to drink.
Okay. That's very fun. Cool. All right. Here's another one.
Sure.
If AI had a personality based on how companies use it today, what would it be?
If AI had a personality, I think it would be pretty. I don't have anything nice to say.
Okay.
I think it would be pretty arrogant.
Okay.
I think it would definitely position itself like it knew everything.
Yeah.
Even though everyone knows that it's the emperor with no clothes.
Emperor with no clothes.
Yeah. I think AI's personality right now, it comes in big and bold, but it actually doesn't deliver.
Okay. Wow. All right. That's really honest.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm pretty honest.
All right. So what is the one tech buzzword that you were done with today?
Oh my God. So in my business, because I do work for the federal government, this whole concept of Fed tech or defense tech, it kind of feels like we just took something that existed and gave it a new label to make it more attractive.
Okay.
And I kind of feel like they're words that don't really mean anything. So I don't like defense tech. I don't like GovTech.
And yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
And I think, it's annoying. It's annoying how all these words, they take different meanings as the years go on. So
Exactly.
I agree.
Exactly.
I agree. It's like cloud computing or big data or any of those have just evolved into so many different.
Exactly. I mean, I know there are a lot of people who used to say cloud computing. How is it any different than having a big data center and stuff in a data center? It really isn't, except that you have multiple data centers and you share amongst those. So it's just a way to reinvent something that already exists.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk a little bit more about you.
Sure.
Just let the audience learn a little bit more. I know, obviously, you said you're in government. You're a board member at Frontier Technologies. You're CEO of GovTech Technology. How did you get into the government world?
Yeah. So I got into government right out of college. So I went to the University of Virginia, which you mentioned. I have a degree in computer science. I actually thought I would go to New York and work after college. I'm from New Jersey originally, so I wanted to go back up north. But what I learned quickly is that going to school in Virginia, all the companies who recruit are from DC.
Okay.
All right. So all of my job opportunities were coming from the DC region, and the DC region is just so filled with government contractors that was my most reasonable path out of college. So if I wanted a job by the time I graduated, I was going to go work for a government contractor in DC. And that's what I did.
Okay.
So that's how I got into it.
Okay.
You know, one thing leads to another, and almost 30 years have passed. And I'm still in it. Imagine that. I'm still in it. Right. And there have been times where I'm like, should I try something else? And you kind of like, well, if it keeps you employed and you keep having opportunity and you keep having abilities to grow, do you go somewhere else and learn something new? And I just chose to stay.
And then you just stayed in that area.
Yeah.
Was it easier then, you think, in terms of getting jobs, working for the federal government compared to the job industry now?
Oh my gosh, 100%. I think the job industry today is much, much different than it was when I came out of school. Now I graduated from UVA in 96.
Okay.
So I remember though going into college and it being a terrible job market, right? No one was getting jobs.
All right.
And that 4 years while I was at UVA, the job market drastically changed and it became a good market by the time I graduated. So from 96 to now, definitely different.
Okay.
I think if we looked at 94, it probably is more the same, harder to get a job. Now I think what we've seen over the past year in 2025 was a very different type of year. We saw a lot of federal jobs go away, a lot of federal agencies be impacted and shrink, which now I don't know that I would have gotten the offer from the government contractor if I had graduated in 2025.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a different contrast.
It's a completely different context. Yeah.
And when you studied at University of Virginia, and then when you went to Maryland, what were you studying and how did you get involved in? Well, okay, we talked a little bit about the federal side, but then how you got technical. How did you get into that? What inspires you? Yeah.
So it's not that inspiring of a story. I actually thought I would go to UVA and study aerospace engineering.
Okay. I have so many questions.
So yeah. Because I want to. Okay. So my favorite movie when I was growing up, when I was younger, was Space Camp. Okay, if you've seen Space Camp, if you have, I know you need to go watch it. It's like a terrible 80s movie. Okay. Terrible 80s movie. Okay. Some kids go to space camp and end up in space. I mean, secret. That's cool a secret. Cool for them. Okay. And so I from after watching that movie, I was like, I want to send people to space. Like this seems so cool, so cool. So I show up at UVA. They don't have aerospace.
I know some people that I would like to send to space.
There's a whole list of those as well. Maybe I should do a throwback and go back to school for aerospace. But I discovered that aerospace no longer was a major. They had sunset the program when I was at UVA.
Wow.
So I couldn't even major in aerospace. And so then I had to figure something else out.
Okay.
Quite frankly, long story short, I ended up with computer science because I also realized after my first semester in college in engineering school that I don't know that I wanted to be as technical as I thought I did at one point in time.
Okay.
And with computer science, I could take more electives than any other major in the engineering school. And I could get a job right out of college. So that was important too.
And that was, okay.
Yeah. So I was like, how can I make the most of my degree now that my cheese has been completely moved and I can't send people to space?
Yeah.
So so that's how I decided computer science.
And what was the industry, or I guess, were there a lot of women studying back then in science degrees? No.
There were none. No.
There were
I
none.
think in a
so
class.
That was still common. Okay.
Yeah, it was still common. And it's a little better now, but not much. There were 60 of us in computer science and about 5 women. So, I think there were there was a group of 3 of us that studied together, worked together, and then we let one guy in our group, and the 4 of us kind of had like our whole little study situation going on, and then there were like 2 other women in the whole program.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't many.
Yeah. Interesting. I know when I'm trying to think about, when I went to school, I was in school for biology. So for me, there was plenty of women in the field, but I don't know if I ever noticed those things. I should have paid more attention as I was in college, but I don't know if I noticed
that. There's not a lot of women in the computer science.
Yeah.
There still aren't. There are more definitely now, but it's still not like over 10, 12%.
Sometimes I feel like it's less because yesterday we had a meeting and we were sitting with some of the IBM engineers in the room, and they, it's just always just me.
Yes, and a
like
whole
in
bunch
a
of
room
men.
with a full of men, and then also some of our clients in technology as well, speaking with the CISOs, the CTOs as well.
Yeah.
It's just myself and
A bunch.
a
of men.
bunch of men. It's not that it affects me, but it's something that you notice.
It's something that you notice. When I was interesting story right out of college when I joined EDS, Electronic Data Systems,
which is what got bought by HP. Right?
bought by HP.
Yep.
I was on a team and we were supporting the FAA.
Okay.
But I was on a team and we were majority women, and I don't know how that happened, but I was very junior on the team, and it was me and there was one other girl at the time who's same age as me, but then most of our team were women. And
Wow.
so I grew up in my first kind of initial role in industry not knowing that there was, I mean, I knew from college, but then I was here right now, I was on this team of women. I'm like, oh, and the workforce is fine. There's, it's, but then it just happened. But then we went to our first technical conference.
All right. With the
As
FAA?
a team. It was with a company called Lotus, who doesn't exist anymore.
Domino Lotus? Like
Lotus,
IBM?
Domino,
Okay,
IBM,
okay.
yep. And we went to the Lotus conference in Florida, and that was the first time I was like, where the women all disappeared. I don't know what happened to the women, but it was like a conference full of men.
Wow.
And you definitely noticed that you were just a little different.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so this team I'm on is not normal.
Yes. And so you were that makes a big difference. Can you identify or remember any moment where you had a mentor that really made a difference in your life?
All the time. I've consistently had mentors throughout my career, whether they were official or unofficial, and most were not official. Most just happened. I can think of, a handful of people. One of my very first bosses at EDS was a mentor to me. She was probably one of the best women in the workplace who was very open about how to have a life of balance.
Okay.
Or what could look like balance.
All right.
The fact that you could work and be successful, that you could have a family, that you could be respected in the workplace, right? Continue to grow your career.
Yeah.
And she actively made it okay, right, for women to want to and to have like all those aspects of their lives. So she was always living on really kind of, it sounds silly to call it the cutting edge, but it was kind of the cutting edge in the workplace, right? Before COVID, everybody like hid their families. I feel like
really?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
I don't feel like people really lived into the fact that they had families before COVID. You never saw anybody's kids, you might on their desk see a picture, but it was kind of like that was home and this is work.
All right.
With this particular woman, her name is Connie Thoreau. She always seemed to embrace the fact that you have a family, it's okay. You want to have a family. I was a young woman, right?
Yeah.
You want to have a family, it's okay, right?
That's great.
Yeah, she actually created in one of her teams the first job share that I'd ever seen. So she had two women who came as a group for one job. They shared one position, and they had done it in a past company, and they approached her, and she decided to try it. And it was because both of them were working moms, but they didn't want to give up career. They wanted something outside of the house to do, but they also wanted to be able to take care of their families. And so she's like, yeah, sure, do it here. Right. So that kind of was like, especially at a large kind of multinational global company, it was kind of cutting edge.
That is. Mm-hmm. That really is. And did you see, did that impact how that job was done?
It was they worked it so well. It was very easy to work with them, right? Like they were like, it was like talking to the same person, right? About the work. So if you had a question, it didn't matter which of the two of them you were talking to.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. They had their own process for how they were sharing the work. But it just having Connie there to support it and to allow them to do it. I mean, it was kind of like eye-opening.
That was some innovative thinking.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely.
they don't think like that now, do they? I mean, that approach is not taken in the industry.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But I think it takes the right type of leader to be okay with that, right?
Okay.
And to try it because it is different.
So that was really interesting what you shared. Have you been able to incorporate any of that concepts, right, into Dev Technology today?
Yeah, so we haven't gone full job share, but what we have done is we have had over time multiple roles, especially in our corporate team, which is a little easier to do than on like project facing roles because clients kind of control those. But in our corporate team, we've done had multiple women who have come in and worked part-time, right? Less than 30-hour weeks.
Okay.
It's like we've had them in accounting, we've had them in business operations. And we were always open to that where they didn't want to take a full 40 plus hour, week. And we felt like the role could be done in less than a 40-hour week, right? Where it matched up. And we were pretty successful in being able to support those types of roles. Yeah. So it's worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any men that have done that?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. Since I've been CEO, I can't say that we have, but it isn't because we didn't look for anyone to do it necessarily. A lot of when we did it was opportunistic. Like someone either referred someone to us in the discussion. They asked whether or not we'd be open to a shorter week. But we haven't had any men take advantage of it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in a modern work field. Yeah, definitely.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I would take advantage of that.
You're like, I'll do it. I'll do it. Frontier can try it out.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Give me a couple. Let's get some bit more sales, and then let's
see if that works.
Yeah, and then we can do it. That's fine. Not opposed to it. So one of the things that we've noticed with the new administration in 2025 that there's a push between buying or building technology. What has your experience been with that?
Yeah. So that's an interesting observation. It's definitely something that we've seen in 2025. There have been at least one or multiple executive orders on buy versus build. And while I think that there's definitely reasons you would buy versus build, there are also a lot of circumstances where build makes more sense than buy.
Okay.
Typically, if you're buying a product that is being implemented in a really complex solution where there are very specific workflows and processes that a government agency needs to follow. Buying something off the shelf and customizing it could be more costly and take more time than building it from scratch, right?
Okay.
And so I think what's important here is making sure that our clients have the right governance structures, the right approach to analyze what the real requirement is, and based on the alternatives that you could buy versus the options to build, that they make the right decision for the right use case. So that's what we would say.
Okay.
At the same time, I do think for us at Dev, we have spent the past probably 6 to 8 months really looking at what we offer and how we offer it to try and give the government some options to buy.
Okay.
Right. That are not as, So we're not just offering them a team to build from scratch, but giving them a starting point, right? Okay. So they could buy a solution that we take that's pre-built, but then we do some customization for them so that it fits within the systems that they currently have, and government systems are really large, really complex, really old.
Archaic.
Many times very archaic. So dropping in a modern SaaS doesn't always work the way they think it should work, right? So we think that there's probably a blend of the two that makes the most sense for most of government.
Yeah.
That's her thoughts.
No, that makes sense. I was just trying to think about the push from, administration versus does that actually, again, you already said it varied based on the needs and the requirements and their systems that they already have. But I was just trying to understand the tie-in between, and again, you already said this too, about how you're understanding their needs, the government's needs, the client's needs, and then building that out. Is there a disconnect between what the administration is pushing versus just the actual reality of where the government is, and then not trying to make it anything, but why is there a push from the administration when it really, they're not tying in together is all I'm trying to say. So I was just trying to see if you had any thoughts on that.
So, we've seen this throughout time, right? There's a pendulum that swings between buy versus build.
Okay.
Right? Someone buys a large enterprise software license and they implement that software license and it takes a long time. It costs a lot of money. Eventually they get something that's usable.
Right. Okay.
But they're like, oh my gosh, there's these license costs. We're spending $10 million a year just on licenses to maintain the system.
Right.
So then they say, well, what if we just built it ourselves? We could lower the cost, right? Like
this is a government.
This is the government or any large organization, right? So you go through phases of we buy and we implement, and then we have to maintain very high license costs. We have high consultants to maintain it, et cetera. So then we're like, well, what if we build it? Then they swing back and they're like, the next one we're going to build. We're not going to buy.
Okay.
And then it's going to be this process and it takes multiple years to get it right. And then we implement it. Then someone new comes in, leader. Oh, well, why are we building and maintaining all? We should just buy it, right? Like, so it truly is a pendulum that swings back and forth.
Okay.
And normally it's because the person who comes in as a new leader doesn't remember or have the history of what has happened in this program in the past.
Okay.
Of the many iterations of buying and building throughout time. And therefore, every time they decide we want to do X, whether it's buy or build, it's like a brand new thing that no one ever could have thought about in the past. So it really has more to do with not really understanding the history and why the decision was made, the decisions were made in the past, and what is really the right thing to do for the requirement, for the mission, for the need. And so instead of, so I think a lot of people jump to conclusions that the opposite of what's currently being done is the right decision without really analyzing, assessing what's happened in the past.
It's very interesting. I think you said it very eloquently, because that's what I was just trying to get at, which is that they're not correlated and then a pendulum swing. Do you, in your experience working in the government so far, in federal, is there a way that you can foresee that? Do you, you have, okay.
So you hear, right? Like you can hear the chatter.
Okay.
And when people come into leadership, they have preferences, right? Whether it's preferences for a particular software as a service provider, or they don't like a particular, software company, or right? Like everyone has feelings and preferences and ideas. And so you kind of have to go in knowing what those are, so that as you're having a conversation about, okay, well, what makes sense for the requirement, for the mission?
Yep.
You can relate it to what that person is already coming to the table thinking. I mean, I think it all has to start with good communication and conversation. And I think for most people, most people tend to be reasonable, you can have a good technology-based discussion about the thing they want to do.
Okay.
That sounds credible to them, right?
I get it.
So I think you at least have to go in knowing a little something about their preferences, and then knowing what you believe is right for the mission and the requirement, and then have at least a conversation with them about it to see how dug in they are on build versus buy to try and get to a place that makes sense for what you're trying to do.
I like that. I think that's really interesting because you just touched on just being aware. You're tying in your sales, your business development approach, understanding technology, and then serving, again, what are their mission, right? And making sure that you, as a company, you know how to sell and position yourself. So that makes a lot of sense. And I agree with you there because that's a lot of similarities in how Frontier approaches it too, where we take that similar approach of looking at their infrastructure and figuring how to integrate it amongst, like, again, the mission critical applications or the purpose. So I think that makes sense. And then not forcing like one size fits all.
Yeah, exactly. You can't force one size fits all. And if someone has a view that this is the only solution, how could there only be one solution?
Yes,
you know,
right?
like in this day and age, there's
so many, right? The competition is crazy.
It's crazy. So just trying to have that consultative model, right, or a consultative approach, and even having the dialogue about like what is the right solution. And quite frankly, I mean, we're always prepared that we might not be the right option, right, for them. That's because what we do well and what they want done may not align. Or maybe we're only an option for a piece of what they want to do. That's okay too. But we like to come to a place where it makes sense for both us, the client, the mission.
Yeah. That makes sense. Are you commenting?
And from a Frontier perspective, right, there's a lot of times when we're working with clients, the clients don't necessarily have the same technical expertise that we do. They don't necessarily have that long-term thinking and the foresight to understand that, okay, well, you know, this looks good today, but what does that look like? How does that impact us 3-5 years down the line? And that's one of the things that we do at Frontier is we have that technical expertise so we can see that and we can help guide clients through, okay, here are the things that you need to understand in the near term for when we're talking about getting this solution put in place. But here's also what that means going forward in maintaining it and keeping it up to date and having the right resources in place for maintaining it. So that's one of the things that we bring to the table at Frontier is that we sit down with our clients and really understand and get to the core of what their business need is and help them design that solution based on the need, not just, okay, like what tool do we want to use? Like let we get to the root of that problem.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. And that's also not forcing that one size fits all.
Yeah. Well, and it also helps to preserve the relationship, right? Because that's what's important is if you go in with this is just going to work for today and you just go sell it, they're not coming back to you in a year from now or 2 years from now. Because they can see through that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree. Have you noticed the agencies, and then when you're going in to support them and support like a specific project, for example, have you noticed how disconnected all the different teams are? And then how have you noticed it? And then how have you worked through those challenges when you're trying to you're brought in to solve A, but then you realize B, C, D, and E are also there and created the different tools to solve like a problem.
Yeah. I mean, this happens all the time. And, I think, as we were talking about kind of build versus buy, this is part of that analysis that needs to happen to make those determinations. Because often when you're talking to the main client about system X, right? And we know that they're trying to modernize System X. And there are a couple options. We can buy a SaaS, we can build from scratch, we can customize this other thing they have. The challenge is, until you start talking to all of the users of System X, you really don't know the boundary of the requirements of what you have to modernize. Often what we find is when we go to the different offices, where there are active users of the systems, they have created workarounds, new processes, workflows, separate systems to supplement System X that we have to modernize. And so in order for us to have like a successful implementation or modernization, if we can't address the issues that those users are like doing some side project, the other little side systems or spreadsheets or whatever, to address those with the modernization, the adoption may be off. Like you may end up with not a successful project.
Right.
So whether you're talking about a buy versus build, I mean, a lot of the challenge is really in the upfront discovery portion of it all. So what you're actually replacing, and where it has, like, it'll always have cost implications, whether you're buying or building, because if you find out you need to add, another table or 10 more workflows or something that wasn't in your initial set of requirements, that's going to be expensive. But when you have a SaaS product that potentially charges you by the workflow, it could have even more cost implications. So it's just, I think the way in which we work, we do try and really assess upfront during that discovery process what it is we're actually doing.
Okay. So yeah,
so that we can work with the client to position not only the solution correctly, but make sure they have a good expectation of the costs. Make sure they know that they even have these other sides, because they may not know, right? That these other processes, side systems.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question.
Yeah, they may not even know. Because
it's a challenge.
Yeah,
it's a business challenge.
It's a business challenge. But we always see rogue IT.
Okay. Right, because you got to just solve it so everybody can just continue solving that mission.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you do see that a lot. And I've also noticed that with our clients too. It's just the same. And again, in the federal side or on the commercial side, that's the same perspective. And then it's just crazy just how like one arm just doesn't talk to the other.
Exactly.
And then you identify the gap and then they all just look at each other and then they get, So it's a big challenge, but it's doable. It's manageable and it's doable, but you have to just be able to understand the business needs and the requirements and work through that with the right questions. Right?
Exactly.
And you gotta making sure is it like speaking to the right people?
Yes.
You think
It's making sure all the stakeholders are represented.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So that's critical.
It's critical, especially when you have like a really diverse user base. Like there are folks who are using this, whether it's offices in different regions across the country or offices that have a slightly different function than kind of this core function. Because anytime you have dispersed groups using even a common system, they're all using it differently.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're all going to use it differently.
Yeah.
And you need, again, when you're doing a modernization or a replacement of a system, you have to understand what that looks like. You just do.
And that's why it's so important to have good training, right? And having those, that's super important.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
Training. Yeah. I mean, Do you want to say something?
We're going to get into AI a little bit more later, but do you think that with AI now that AI's making it easier for people to throw somewhat simple apps together, that this is going to become an even bigger problem down the line because there's a much lower barrier for people to just throw a tool together to accomplish a small task.
Yeah.
And now a company could have all these disparate tools that are just randomly around that they may not even know about, right? And no control over.
I think AI is going to continue the trend of people kind of going rogue and creating their own little apps and systems. I don't know if it will create more of it, because what I've learned is that our clients are very resourceful, and they figure out the one like technical person in the office who sort of technical, pseudo technical, plays around, like has, like a server at their house, and they figure out how to create whatever it is. Even if it's just a spreadsheet with a lot of automation, they'll figure it out. AI will certainly lower the barrier for people to be able to do that. I still think it's the same people who want to play though, right? That analyst or agent who just comes in to do their job and performs their function according to their process. I don't think they're the ones creating it. I think it's still the same person with the same mindset who's doing it today that's going to use AI to make the tools. It'll make it easier for them, though, definitely.
So the lesson out there for people listening is be careful what you get good at. Or at least tell people what you're good at.
Exactly.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Exactly.
So, Kendall, let's switch gears. We were talking a lot about SaaS and build, buy, right? Integrate, whatever that, not integrate, build, buy, integrate, modernize, right? How to use those different technologies from a SaaS perspective. From an AI perspective, let's talk a little bit more about that. What are your initial thoughts on how helpful is, and you already said this earlier, because what did you say about AI? You called him something. What did you call him?
I said it was like the emperor with no clothes.
Yes, the emperor with no clothes. So the emperor with no clothes, let's talk more about it. Is he, would you say AI, the emperor with no clothes is more like a tool, or should it start being used as a strategy within your client's environments or in general? Like, I mean, two different perspectives, wherever you want to take the combo.
Yeah. So I think from an AI perspective, I mean, we could talk about this for hours, right? Like there's so much there to talk about with AI. I think the biggest thing that I'm observing now is that while AI still has a lot of promise, we haven't necessarily seen the value that I think was promised to us as it got really, really popular in the past year, right? Okay. We've heard people talk about AI making everything more efficient and AI replacing jobs and AI doing all these things. And quite frankly, I don't see a lot of evidence of AI actually being functional in a way where it could replace anyone's job or mainstream enough where me as a consumer is comfortable just interacting with AI.
Okay. So you want to elaborate?
Sure.
I mean, why don't we do this latter part first about as a consumer. Yeah, and using AI and the promises, and it's not living up to the hype of what it said it was going to help.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you all, but when I call into CVS or whatever company and I get the AI lady and I'm saying I need this thing, and it's like, oh, tell me what you're calling for. And I'm like, hey, I need to talk about this. And it's like, oh, you want to talk about this? And it's something completely different than what I said, or really is not aligned to what I'm calling in about. And then I'm asked, oh, was this interaction helpful? And I'm like, no, it wasn't helpful, right? So
can we help you with your lawn care?
No, that is not what I want. So and this is the best of the AI. You know what I'm saying? Like they're putting the AI on the help desk, the call center that should be able to help you or I. And in fact, I wonder what the percentage of people or calls resolved that AI actually does right now. And I'm going to guess it's pretty low.
It has to still be.
It has to still be.
I would agree.
Because I have not had an awesome AI experience that I could point out and say,
think we have, and
this is awesome. So when I see announcements of large tech companies right? When I see announcements of large tech companies saying, I'm cutting 10,000 jobs or 20,000 jobs because AI has made our lives so much better. Like it's made us so much more efficient. I struggle a little bit to believe it because I just can't see where they're getting that much bang for their buck with AI.
And I think that's interesting that you say that because who else? IBM, I feel like IBM just let go a lot of people. And part of their reasons were that they were using AI to solve a lot of their challenges, right? Or solve a lot of the, not basic level, but just support them in different administrative needs, right? That was their whole client zero, right? Concept, David?
And what's interesting is I read an interesting take on that with with these big companies and doing all these layoffs due to AI, where it, like you said, it wasn't because AI has taken over all these roles, but these companies have invested so much money into AI that they almost had to do that just to save face, to make it look like they actually accomplish something with it, because otherwise it would have been like, well, you invested how many hundreds of millions of dollars and it didn't do what you said it was going to do.
Yeah, and I think that could be right. I also have heard that there was a lot of overhiring done in the past couple of years.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, there was a lot.
After coming out of COVID, there was a lot of overhiring. And so I think AI right now, and I don't want any of the big IT companies come after me. I'm a little small company. This is not the purpose of this.
This is just about perspective.
This is about perspective. Exactly.
Yeah, everybody's got to do what they got to do, right?
Exactly. Do what you got to do.
That's our line.
But I think that big headlines are really giving credence to AI. Now, what's interesting, I started to read articles about the AI bubble.
Okay, let's talk more about this AI bubble.
Let's talk about this AI bubble and how the best description that I've heard is that those companies that are not tech companies, who maybe it's consumer products, maybe it's transportation, whatever kind of company, but who has made some AI investment, bought some AI tools with the hope, the promise that it's going to make their operations more efficient. If they have not seen those true efficiencies for the investments that they have made and will continue to have to make in licensing fees or whatever they have to do for the AI, they're going to stop using it, right? They're going to stop paying those fees because, again, it goes back to that we've invested all of this money and we need to see some return on that investment. And if you're not a technical company and you've hired, a technical company to come and do these implementations for you, and you're actually your customer service agent isn't working, and people are still asking for the real agent, and whatever it is that you attempted to implement, then they will start to abandon some of the investment that they made in AI. Hence, the bubble starts to burst.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It reminds me of a story that I read, and I don't remember the name of the company, but it was an AI company that was created to build websites faster. And it turned out that the company, it wasn't really using AI at all. They had massive centers overseas, and basically they had people building these websites behind the scenes, making the user think that it was actually AI,
right?
When it really wasn't.
It was
because
really
it just
it
wasn't there. It wasn't what they what they claimed it
was going to be.
But
I've seen it. I've only had one good AI experience, and it was with the Aura Ring support team. Literally.
Yeah.
They were able to solve my problem on this virtual chat in 5 seconds.
Oh, that's great.
And I can't believe that they were able to. So that was the only time I've ever had technology, or maybe Amazon has mastered it. But I think that you see AI benefiting more on the consumers. I feel like that's where the time and energy has been spent on a little bit more. But I know you said CVS, for example, was a challenge. But I mean, I feel like consumers, they're a little bit more advanced than businesses.
I think you bring up a good point. I think those those companies who are using it to handle very rote requests, like normal, common. Like you can contact, like, for example, Uber Eats or DoorDash or something like that. The wrong thing is delivered. I go into the chat. I'm like, hey, AI lady, my wrong food was delivered or something. And they're like, hey, well, we'll offer you $10 back. Or something like a refund of $10, and like, is that sufficient?
Right. DoorDash has done that for me too.
Is that sufficient? Did we address your? And you say yes. I think in those circumstances where it's a very basic workflow path resolution, it's fine. I think where the promise of AI and they kind of like have always had those automated kind of chatbots that could try and
which have existed for years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that would be the stuff that works. Right. But when you have something that's slightly more complex or not a standard request, that's I think where we start to see it fall apart.
I was also going to comment earlier when you mentioned about AI in terms of using it for the business. I know we constantly talk about how to implement it with the businesses or ways to use it around accounting, and are there different ways that, and we have not been able to completely use it. So we've used it more in the conversations, recording notes, getting takeaways, using it from that perspective. But from actual overall business, we haven't, again, we're starting to implement it.
Yeah.
Right? And then again, from a recruiting perspective, we're using it a little bit for the recruiting questions. Are there ways to hire people, standard process, but you still need that human touch.
You do 100%.
Yeah, and I think that's what you were saying earlier, where you go on or you call and you just want help. But it takes me back. AI takes me back to the stupid call centers. I'm sorry if I said stupid call centers, but isn't it the same thing? Just a little bit more modernized?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's putting a layer in front of the call center, which is kind of a little bit more frustrating because if I have to start with the AI and I still end up in the same place talking to the same people, you've just added more time in a step for me, right? And so unless your issue is so rote that it can answer it for you as the AI, then you as the consumer are not having a good experience with AI.
Right.
Now, I think in terms of using it in your office for your business, I definitely think there's some useful use cases in accounting. Okay. Ways can you get it to prep your invoices? Obviously, the human still needs to check them and review them. Okay. Those sorts of things. We do some automation from an accounting perspective. We use it for business development. We do use a proposal tool. Okay. That's AI. Okay. It does not write anything on its own, but we will get a first draft out of it. Okay. Which is time savings, right? It'll take what will take you a couple of days to pull together down to a few minutes. That's okay. Now you still need to know that what you're getting is still written by the AI. Yep. You still have to have human intervention. It's not as great. You mentioned recruiting. We do have some AI tools integrated into our recruiting suite. So we do use AI there as well. Mm-hmm. In terms of doing any full AI automation for any function, no, we don't. Right. It's just not there yet. Yeah. Even, I have Copilot license. We're an Office 365 shop. And I think in our prep for this, I said that one of my confessions was that I abandoned Copilot because Copilot let me down. I'm like trying to work with Copilot. It's included in my Microsoft. Actually, we have to pay for licenses on top of our Office 365. And what I learned is, like with at least the Copilot I'm using, I get to like the third level of request. So I say, hey, Copilot, I need you to create for me this. Yeah. And so it creates it. And then it starts asking me questions. Hey, would you like me to add, some imagery, or would you like me to change the tone or add these words? And I'll say, sure, Copilot, go ahead and do X, Y, or Z. And it does it. And then I look and I'm like, well, Copilot, you just introduced an error in what you produced the first time. And so I'll say, Copilot, can you go back and fix this error? And so it's like, sure, Kendall,
Yeah.
So it fixes the error and then creates another error. So what I've also learned is that you get different types of results, right, with different AI tools.
Correct. Yeah.
Depending on what you're doing, which now, to me, that's problematic. Because if I'm paying for a Copilot license and I have Copilot, I should be able to do all the basic assistive stuff that I would need as a CEO with Copilot. Yeah. The reality is I can't.
I know.
I might have to go to Copilot and ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini to do different things. And to me, while AI is supposed to make our lives more efficient, that just made it more difficult.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. And that's why I go, well, why can't I just sit there and just take an extra 20 minutes and just
do it yourself?
Do it myself. And that's what I end up finding I have to do anyway. I still have to write it. And then even if I use AI for whatever, it's,
it's still not there yet.
Still not there.
It's still not there yet. And so, that goes back to kind of the initial comments when we were talking about AI earlier, is that it's just not there. And I read an article, this is a few months ago now, and, things move fast. I'm sure it's better. But it was an article about, there was a test done to see if it could take, if someone was trying to take three AI agents.
Okay.
Right, that were trained to run a simple office, right? And those AI agents kind of did all the basic functions that you would do in an office. And so they let them loose, and it was a complete mess, right? They failed. They could not run together. The three agents could run an office. So it just gets back to AI is just not there for what I feel like we're told.
Got it. For the hype, right?
For the hype. Yeah. Again, the emperor has no clothes. So it came in big and bold, right? And I got it. We're here. Use this, use that. It's amazing. You got videos being created out of nowhere. And then you try and use it to do something that is fairly simple in your job.
Right.
And the performance, you just don't feel is there. Right.
I agree. I mean, I agree too. You were going to say something? I saw
you were talking about AI and how it's created more problems. And if you look back at when the PC came out, one of the goals of the computer was to reduce the amount of paper usage. And we can obviously see how well that worked, right? Now we use probably 25 times more paper than we did before computers were even invented. So, there's always that goal, but then what are the side effects that we didn't really think of?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think it also comes back to is, right, some of this is about expectation setting and, right? And some of this is about what we're being told we should expect and the reality of what it is and what we should expect. And I think there was just way too much hype on what they were able to deliver, at least in 2025. And so I feel like if our expectations were properly set, if we were told that, it's going to be an assistant, it's not perfect yet, but this is what it can do. Here are the use cases. Here's right. If we were told all those things.
About marketing. Yeah. And how they were. Yeah, I get it.
Maybe I'd feel a little bit differently, but I just feel like, and this is not to say I'm going to stop using AI. I'm still going to use AI. I'm just going in completely eyes open on what I've experienced with what has worked and what has not worked. And I have, sorry, Microsoft, abandoned Copilot in terms of creation of things, because I sat there and tried to create something. And after the second iteration where it started introducing errors into what it created, which is really weird.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, I can't use you. I need to go over and use another tool. So I will still use it, but I don't think it's made me Like I haven't gotten 20% more productive or even 5% more productive because of AI.
Would have to agree.
Well, and I think part of it too is you hear about prompt engineering, right? And so I think that comes into play a lot when you're talking with AI, and most people, are feeding commands, simple commands, not necessarily engineering the prompts. And, like anything, you get out kind of what you put into it. So
my prompts are pretty good, David.
I'm sure they are.
I mean, I write out my prompts in Word and I copy them into the chat bot, right? Or into the AI prompt box because I want to make sure I'm consistently. And if I don't get what I want, I'll go back and refine my prompt. Right. So I hear you on the prompt for normal people.
Right.
But I think I'm above average.
This is a different level here, of course. But I mean, we are the Tipsy Technologists, so there's we set the bar higher. But I think that could be contributing to some of that disappointment that people are finding with AI.
I agree, but the fact that I got errors introduced by the AI to what the AI produced, that's not a prompt issue. That is an underlying technology issue. And right? You know what I'm saying? Like
when it starts changing
the output, and
you're like, wait a minute, like
I didn't tell you to change any of this. Like, how do we get it here? So it's just, I think there's some user error, right?
Right.
And I think there are ways where users need to be trained better. But I also think that there are some underlying technology issues that just, they need to be fixed.
Sure.
Because they sold us what they sold us and what we received.
It's not caught up.
It's not caught up yet.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Sam Altman should probably call you guys.
He should call me. No, he's not. Sam Altman.
Oh.
He's, for some real dev work.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to talk, we can talk.
You also talked a little bit, or we mentioned it about AI, and is it potentially going to replace the new workforce that are coming in?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on, do you think that's going to have an impact, or what do you think?
I mean, I think we're definitely seeing an impact. Now, what I haven't been able to assess if it's truly AI or not. This goes back to the conversation we were having about the big layoffs that we saw many, many companies announce over the past year, which are attributed to AI, but maybe not necessarily directly because of AI impact. I do think it's one in the same in the way that some of the large companies are approaching not hiring entry-level folks right now, that they have pulled back on hiring of juniors. I actually saw some data. Actually, we're working with, we're doing a beta test with an AI team who is doing pricing for government proposals.
Okay.
And pricing. So they're helping with some price. And it makes sense. It's large data sets for pricing in the federal government. And they are able to pull those in and analyze them and then analyze your proposal or your RFP to recommend some pricing. But one of the data points as they were going through their sales pitch was their analysis on where they've seen salaries for different levels change.
Okay.
Right, in the past year, 2 years. And what was clear were that the junior salary levels have started to drop. Like junior technical salary levels have started to drop from a high.
Okay.
You didn't see as much impact in the mid-levels and the senior folks, but definitely in juniors, which tells me there's more supply than there is demand, right? The only time you start seeing salaries drop is because there's more people out there than I need, right? Because there were a time where you walked out of college with a degree in computer science and you could write your salary down on a piece of paper and they would pay you. Whatever that is, those days are over.
Interesting. The supply and demand. Okay.
I think it's a supply and demand thing. I think we have a big supply and there's less jobs. Yep. So I think we definitely are seeing pullbacks. I spend a lot of time at colleges, just doing various things. I'm on one board. I do some mentoring and do all kinds of things. And I do ask, are the colleges, is administration starting to see impacts to students getting jobs, right? And it seems like it's happening. Like the impact is there.
Okay.
The other thing we saw, and from a federal government standpoint, we did see that the probationary employees, who the majority are new to the workforce folks, so junior folks, they were let go from the federal government, right? That was one in the initial doge of it all. That was one of the groups that were impacted by federal layoffs. So you're seeing at the federal level, I think you're seeing the pullback on hiring from the private sector. So I feel like AI is being blamed. I don't know if AI is truly the reason, but there are less jobs for juniors.
So, and then how would you look at that in terms, I'm trying to think, how would you look at that in terms of middle managers?
Yeah.
That next mid-level, mid-entry positions.
Yeah.
Do you think AI is replacing that too?
So I don't know. I still think there's room for leadership.
Okay.
I don't know that I want an AI manager.
All right.
Not anytime soon. Definitely not me. I don't know.
I know I don't.
Yeah. I do think that, so whether AI is to blame or not yet, I do think even with my abandoning of Copilot, just temporarily, I'll wait. It'll get better. I'll go back in a few weeks and see if it's better. AI is really great at doing things that we used to hire junior people to do. Like, it makes research a lot faster. Now, you've got to check your sources. You've got to do lots of things. It makes drafting new documents that you've never created. You can at least get a draft.
Yeah.
So that may get you,
it helps.
20, 30, 50% of the way there. It helps. Those are types of like research tasks, drafting tasks. Those are things you would typically have a new hire get you started on. Yes. I think AI is really effective at some of those tasks. So I do think whether it's happening now or not quite yet, that AI is coming for some of those entry-level jobs.
Okay.
Managers, I think, probably have a little bit more time, but if there's less people to manage, then maybe the managers will be impacted.
Yeah.
Because if you're not hiring as many junior folks, do you need as many managers? I don't know. These are
these are questions.
These are questions.
Okay.
And I think my other really big concern though is if we do go into 2026 and we do start to have data that shows we have less entry-level jobs.
Okay.
It is through entry-level jobs that we grow people professionally, that we train them up, that we put them in the succession plan for higher levels in organizations and, in companies. If you're not hiring or your hiring of junior people is so constrained, like how do you then backfill the mid and the senior level if you're not growing people? Right? Like if we're going to have, even if we hire some and the pool is just much smaller, there is something to be said of having a big pool of junior people that you can identify who is good in what types of roles, who would be good to go into this track, this path. We may be painting ourselves into a corner where we might not have the right junior people in our organizations because we haven't hired as broadly as we had in the past to really promote up. So I'm a little concerned on where we'll find ourselves in 3, 4, 5 years from now with not having the right staff to make mid-level.
So I think we touched on a lot of it, but I agree with you, but I believe that the challenge is also companies or the clients, they have to take time to really understand what their challenge is, right? They're trying to solve. And then they also have to understand that AI is just like, it's a tool to help them maybe makes a process a little bit easier, but it's not the whole strategy, right? I mean,
exactly.
And that's what I think is important when you just look at that in general and how you approach business, how we approach it's that same concept.
You have to have a long-term, to have long-term thinking.
Yes.
Right? Your choice, if you're making choices today, you also need to see how they support your strategy in 12 months from now, 18 months from now, 2 years from now.
Okay.
If you're making short-term choices that will dramatically impact your ability to deliver in 2 years from now, it's probably not a good thing. I actually read an article or interview. Actually, I think maybe it was a podcast. It might have been On with Kara Swisher, and she was interviewing, I believe it's the CEO of Uber.
Okay.
I think. Don't quote me, but I think. And it was, the whole topic was that Uber really is a technology company. It's an AI company. They're not, it's applied AI. Everything that Uber does uses AI. Like all your interactions with the app, lots of that is built on AI technology, right?
Because a lot of that's so consumer based.
It's so consumer based, but they've been doing it for a long time. That is why Uber has been so successful. What was really important about that exchange that they had was really on this topic, is that I as a leader, you as a leader for our respective companies, we can make a decision to say we're going to use AI as a tool. It's going to be assistive to our companies. We're not using it as a cost-cutting measure. Right. We're using it to be more efficient so we can grow faster, not so that we can save money today. And so that was what he shared, was that Uber makes a very different decision when they see that this tool is saving me 20-25%. I can take that 20-25%, reinvest it into the company, hire more people, and grow faster, versus pull back, right? Like it's more of like, it's used as an offensive position versus a defensive position, which I thought was really cool. It's a good way to look at it.
And I mean, that also makes sense. But again, that goes back to, I feel like they've been working on this for 10, 15 plus years. Mm-hmm. So they've already gotten that leg up and applied it. So that's where I think it goes back to, it's like they began as a tool. Yes. And then now can implement it as a strategy to get back to the business or grow to the business.
Exactly.
I get it. Exactly what you're saying. Exactly. Versus how we would look at it from like business owners.
Exactly. But we also now, we talk about, like, we've seen plenty of businesses who've taken a different approach. Yeah. Right? They were like, it's a savings. Yeah. It's not an investment, right? That's the difference. Do you treat the efficiency as a savings, or do you treat the efficiency as an investment back into your company for growth? Right.
I think that's really big. Okay. What else do you want to say about that before we wrap up into like
I think we've talked enough about this.
I think we have. And I think it's just a very interesting approach on how AI, SaaS, right? Building technology, integrating it, modernizing it. There's just so many different ways to apply technology to your clients, to how you individually run your business. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really cool. All right. Well then, here are a couple fun things. And then we'll play our fun game. Okay. And then we'll wrap up. So what do you think the most dangerous buzzword is in GovTech?
Ooh, a dangerous buzzword. Yeah, I think, can I flip it a little bit?
Flip it.
So I think one of the most dangerous things that I've seen right now is the weaponization of certain words, or like, right? Like, for example, like the word governance is like a bad word now. And I think technology has to be about governance. Like, I think you have to add governance in front of the process of acquiring technology. It goes back to the build, buy, implement, modernize, whatever. You have to someone has to be making an informed decision on how you spend your dollars. So I think it's dangerous to exclude certain words that have been that when implemented the right way actually help you.
That is very interesting. And I did not know that governance was being
right now. It's used
in a weaponized way.
But
it's so important.
Right now in government, it's not the best thing. I think because what we saw in 2025 was it's a word that is consulting consultants use. Okay. And there's in government right now, consultants are not a good. They just don't like consultants.
Okay. So what do you think? This is great. What do you think what do you forecast and what's going to change in the government or in AI or SaaS technology in the next 12, 24 months? What are you foreseeing?
Yeah, I think there will be, I think we'll start to see some settling of AI.
Okay.
Right?
Some settling of AI, yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll start to see where it will give us all the biggest bang for the buck and where it's just not. I think it's going to shake out. Okay. I think we'll see some shaking out of AI. Because again, I think, big promises made and it hasn't necessarily produced what we thought we were going to get. So I think we'll see some of that shake out. I think we will also see, hopefully we're at a place of growth, right, for 2026. Okay. There was a lot of change in 2025, especially when it comes from the government. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, 25 was big.
Yeah, I'm hopeful things will settle down a bit and we get back to the business of actually seeing what needs to be done, meeting the needs that government is intended to meet. Like all of the disruption, hopefully, has ended in a major way, and that we know what's left and what we need to build.
That's where it's important to make sure that you are the government, your clients are partnering with the right service providers, technology companies to better understand that, so that outcome is more, like you said, more decisions, more actual goals. I mean, like getting things done, right?
Things
because
done. We need to get some things done.
Too disrupted in 25.
And and not much got done.
Get things done.
Yeah.
I agree. All right. Well, cool. All right. Well, I think this is a wrap.
It's a wrap.
Thanks, Kendall. Thank you for being here today with us.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. One of the things I love about conversations like this is that they remind us that technology isn't magic, it's people, processes, and trade-offs. Kendall brought us back to reality today, that AI isn't a shortcut, SaaS isn't a silver bullet, and real transformation only happens when leaders are willing to understand how actual work gets done. Whether you're a CIO, a founder, or someone just trying to build a career in tech, the message is clear. Don't chase buzzwords. You want to build capacity, invest in people, and design systems that can survive the real world. Kendall, again, thank you for your honesty today and your perspective. And to everybody listening, if the episode made you uncomfortable, good. That's usually where growth starts. Cheers, and we'll see you next time on Tipsy Technologists.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay.